Right now, if you walk into like a state-of-the-art AI data center, the biggest threat to the whole system isn't a software bug.
No, it's really not.
It isn't a cyber attack either. It is just basic, unrelenting physics. I mean, the copper wires connecting the most advanced chips in the world are literally in danger of melting.
Yeah, it's a profound structural crisis. The
Right.
industry has reached the absolute physical limit of what we can force through traditional metal wiring,
Right.
and it's forcing this foundational paradigm shift in how computing actually works.
Well, welcome to today's deep dive. It is Wednesday, July 22, 2026, and right now over in San Francisco, AMD is kicking off their highly anticipated Advancing AI event.
Which is huge.
Huge. I mean, the financial press is swarming the main stage, but for you listening, we're looking entirely past that stage today.
Exactly, because we're looking at the bedrock.
Yes, because this deep dive is about mapping the invisible supply chain that makes all those massive announcements possible, which leads us down to a hidden micro-cap company sitting at the absolute core of AI hardware.
And we are pulling from an incredibly diverse stack of sources for this one.
We really are.
We've got financial analyses from Barchart and Bidget, hardware leaks from Tom's Hardware, technical teardowns from SiliconANGLE and the Some Ecosystem Substack, plus some crypto market insights from KuCoin.
And maybe the most fascinating part of all, we are diving into this highly detailed open source intelligence investigation from a Reddit community of stock sleuths.
Oh, the Reddit stuff is wild.
It's insane. So our mission today is to unpack the physical limitations of current AI, understand the revolutionary shift from copper to lasers, and show you how niche tech components become massive opportunities. Okay, let's unpack this.
So to understand why this specific supply chain even matters, we have to clearly define the copper bottleneck first.
Right.
As AI models scale up, they require these massive clusters of GPUs to communicate with each other instantaneously.
And historically, we've always connected those GPUs with copper.
Right. But here's the problem with copper at this new scale.
It's like trying to force a high-pressure fire hose through a flimsy plastic straw, right?
That is the perfect analogy. The sheer friction of pushing that much data through the copper literally turns the electrical energy into heat.
Wow.
And over physical distance, the signal degrades, it distorts, and the system just requires astronomical amounts of power just to push the electricity through all that resistance.
Which is exactly what's driving those leaks we're seeing from Tom's Hardware about AMD's upcoming architecture.
Yes, exactly. So AMD is prepping this system. It's called the MI500 Scale-Up Megapod, slated for 2027.
Even the name Megapod just sounds like it's compensating for something massive.
I mean, it is unprecedented in its density. Just for context, AMD's current 2026 flagship, the Helios rack, that links 72 GPUs together.
Okay.
Nvidia's competing Kyber NVL576 links 144.
Right.
But this 2027 Megapod, it uses 64 of AMD's next-generation EPYC Verano CPUs and a staggering 256 Instinct MI500 series GPUs.
Wait, 256 GPUs functioning as a single brain.
Yeah, and it requires 3 physically linked racks to pull it off. You've got 2 side racks entirely dedicated to compute, housing the CPUs and GPUs, and then 1 massive central rack just housing the UALink switches to route the data between them. And the whole thing requires intense liquid cooling.
Okay, hold on. If they are linking 256 GPUs across 3 different physical racks, how are they actually communicating without melting the copper or just lagging the entire system out? You just said the friction turns the energy into heat.
Well, they aren't using copper. That is the multi-billion-dollar pivot happening right now. To make the Megapod work, the entire industry is transitioning to co-packaged optics, or CPO. They are literally replacing electricity with light.
So instead of sending electrons through metal wire, we are encoding data into photons and sending them through these microscopic fiber optic channels directly on the chip.
Yes. But, standardizing this is a total nightmare.
I can imagine.
You have these massive competitors who normally refuse to share technology, yet the sources detail this new consortium called the OCI MSA, which stands for Optical Compute Interconnect Multi-Source Agreement.
It's a mouthful.
It is, but AMD, Meta, Microsoft, and Nvidia have all backed it.
Wow. I mean, when AMD and Nvidia are actually cooperating to build a shared standard, the underlying physical problem has to be an existential threat to their business.
Exactly. They are establishing an open plug-and-play ecosystem so that different top-tier processors can seamlessly interoperate using the same optical language.
Right.
And the first major foundry to roll out a manufacturing platform capable of supporting this standard is GlobalFoundries, with their new scale platform.
But GlobalFoundries just builds the silicon environment.
Right.
They don't design the engines that actually shoot the light.
No, they don't.
Because according to SiliconANGLE, that specific job falls to a startup called Ayar Labs.
Yes.
And they just raised $500 million in a late-stage round, hitting a $3.75 billion valuation.
Yeah.
And crucially, that round was backed by both Nvidia and AMD.
Which tells you everything you need to know. Ayar Labs is designing the two most critical components for this whole transition.
Okay, break those down for us.
Sure. First is the supernova chip. This is a tiny, flat, rectangular chip, about the size of a dime, that acts as the light emitter.
Yeah.
Specifically, it produces continuous wave, or CW, lasers.
And for anyone unfamiliar, a continuous wave laser doesn't pulse, right? It provides a steady, uninterrupted beam of pure light. It acts essentially as a blank canvas for the data.
Exactly, a blank canvas. Now, the second component is the TeraPHY chip.
Yeah.
This is the translator. It takes the electronic data from the processor and encodes it onto that steady laser beam provided by the supernova at speeds of 8 terabits per second.
I was reading about how it actually does this in the sources, and the engineering is just wild.
Oh, it's fascinating.
Like, the TeraPHY chip uses millions of transistors and these microscopic structures called microwave resonators.
Right.
By slightly changing the electrical voltage around these tiny rings, they can tune them to cause constructive and destructive interference with the laser beam.
Huh.
Basically, they force the light waves to collide, altering the wave shape to encode the zeros and ones directly into the light itself.
And here's the craziest part. They are doing it with such precision that it eliminates one of the biggest bottlenecks in networking.
Which is?
FEC, or forward error correction.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, most traditional interconnects use FEC algorithms to constantly check for and fix data errors during transmission. But running those algorithms takes time.
Sure.
The TeraPHY chip's microwings are so incredibly precise that Ayar Labs just dropped FEC entirely.
That is insane. The sources mention that skipping FEC shaves off 100 milliseconds of latency. And, in human terms, 1/10 of a second sounds like nothing.
Literal blink of an eye.
But in AI inference, 100 milliseconds is an absolute eternity.
Yeah.
Like, if you have an AI agent chaining together thousands of internal logical steps to solve a complex problem, and every single step is delayed by 100 milliseconds, the cascade effect means your software essentially freezes.
Exactly.
Shaving that off is the difference between having a real-time AI assistant and just staring at a loading screen.
It fundamentally changes the user experience. But this brings us to the most critical layer of the supply chain.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Because if you're an investor or just someone following AI, everyone is looking at AMD and Nvidia.
Right.
But the real secret is finding the company that makes the lasers for Ayar Labs and GlobalFoundries.
Because GlobalFoundries is manufacturing the silicon, Ayar Labs is designing the chips. But neither of them actually fabricate the raw laser diodes that emit the light.
Right. So who is making them?
Yeah.
This is where we dive into the open source intelligence from the Reddit sleuths over at the Sorcerer Smear Conductor subreddit.
Retail OSINT has just become incredibly sophisticated. We are talking about everyday individuals who parse through highly technical slide decks, cross-reference patent filings, and track supply chain logistics to uncover massive asymmetric value way before the institutional market catches on.
And this community has built a massive thesis around a microcap Swedish supplier called SIVE Semiconductors.
Yeah, trading under the tickers CPO, or CIVE, or CVF.
The sleuths mapped out what they call the catalyst stack, basically arguing that SIVE is the foundational layer for all the CPO tech we just discussed.
Let's break down that stack because it's compelling. First, SIVE is the official reference laser for GlobalFoundries' scale platform.
Okay, meaning what?
Meaning when GlobalFoundries sells this new CPO tech to someone like AMD, the SIVE laser diode is the default component built directly into the spec.
Wow. I mean, that alone practically guarantees a massive revenue stream.
It really does. But they also supply Ayar Labs.
Right.
The Reddit sleuths tracked Ayar Labs' website changes over time, and they noted that Ayar has been methodically removing older competitors like Lumentum from their partner pages.
Oh, wow. So just quietly scrubbing them from the site.
Exactly. And the implication is that SIVE is becoming their primary, if not exclusive, CW laser source for the supernova chip.
So we've got GlobalFoundries, we've got Ayar Labs, both heavily backed by Nvidia and AMD. But the Reddit investigation goes significantly deeper than that.
Much deeper.
They also point to a major partnership with Jabil to produce a 1.6T LRO. Let's unpack that jargon really quick. So 1.6T means 1.6 terabits per second bandwidth. And LRO stands for linear receive optics,
Right.
which is basically an advanced optical module that minimizes power consumption by completely stripping out the heavy digital signal processors that usually clean up the data.
Exactly. It's just raw blinding speed, and Sivers is providing the laser arrays for it.
But the technical sleuthing reaches its absolute peak with a company called Lightelligence, right?
Yes. Lightelligence is a massive player in China's independent optical interconnect market, and they are heavily backed by Chinese tech giants like Tencent and Baidu.
But wait, how did Reddit connect a Swedish microcap to Tencent's optical hardware?
Through sheer investigative grinding.
I love it.
In May 2026, Lightelligence did this highly technical deep dive presentation. The Reddit users literally grabbed blurry screenshots of the slide decks showing the chiplet topology.
No way.
Yes. They zoomed in on the physical layout of the optical pins and the specific diode structures, and they mapped those visual signatures directly to a filed patent owned by Sivers Semiconductors.
That is incredible.
And then they correlated that timeline with the funding rounds from Baidu and Tencent.
So they essentially matched a fingerprint on a blurry Chinese tech slide to a Swedish patent.
Yep.
That highlights a massive strategic advantage, though. I mean, think about it. Sivers is supplying the West, right? Nvidia, AMD, Global Foundries, and they are structurally integrated into the East via Lightelligence.
Exactly.
Sivers is basically the Switzerland of the global AI tech war. Because they're a neutral Swedish supplier, they map cleanly to both Western and Asian hyperscalers without getting caught in geopolitical crossfires.
It is the perfect geopolitical moat. But if we connect this to the bigger picture, the OSINT revealed another major supply chain shortcut.
Oh, right, the Marvell connection.
Yes. Traditionally, the broader market assumed Sivers sold lasers to a company called POET Technologies, who then integrated them for celestial AI, who then partnered with the semiconductor giant Marvell.
Which is a long, convoluted chain.
Very. But the sleuths noticed that when POET Technologies had a string of purchase orders unexpectedly canceled earlier in 2026, Sivers' revenue projections weren't affected at all.
Wait, really? How is that possible?
Because Marvell was already bypassing POET entirely.
Oh, wow.
The OSINT uncovered that Marvell was buying DFB laser arrays directly from Sivers.
Wait, DFB laser arrays, let's clarify that for the uninitiated. DFB stands for distributed feedback, right?
Correct.
Unlike the CW lasers we talked about earlier that provide a blank canvas, DFB lasers use a grating structure to maintain an incredibly pure, single wavelength of light.
Exactly.
Because if you are packing multiple channels of data into a tiny space without them interfering with each other, you need the absolute frequency purity of a DFB laser. And Marvell is buying them straight from the source.
Yeah, the indirect path through POET was just a secondary route. Sivers has a direct line to Marvell.
Okay, so we have this Swedish microcap company that is apparently the beating heart of the AI laser revolution. They are embedded with Global Foundries, Ayar Labs, Jabil, Marvell, and the Chinese hyperscalers.
Yeah, it's quite a list.
If Sivers is this essential to the physical future of computation, why did the stock recently drop 20% in a single trading session?
Well, that is the crucial reality check we have to address here, because to a casual observer just looking at a stock screener, a 20% drop looks like a complete disaster.
Right. It looks like the foundational thesis is broken and insiders are fleeing.
But the Reddit community makes a brilliant point about market mechanics here. One user wrote, and I quote, "Small caps don't move on the thesis, they move on catalysts."
That is so true.
Meaning, you can have the most vital, irreplaceable technology in the world, but until a specific, undeniable financial event forces the institutional algorithms to look at you, the price just drifts on low volume.
So the sell-off is entirely sentiment, not signal.
Exactly. If you look at the fundamentals, nothing has deteriorated. Global Foundries is actively rolling out scale. Sivers' millimeter wave division just secured a contract with Deutsche Bahn.
Right.
And their LiDAR revenue is scheduled to ramp up significantly in Q4 of 2026. The underlying business is executing flawlessly.
But in the absence of immediate flashy PR announcements, impatient retail money just gets bored and leaves.
Bingo.
It perfectly illustrates the difference between how mainstream analysts operate and how deep value researchers think.
Absolutely.
Like the bar chart source points out that Blaine Curtis, a mainstream analyst at Jefferies, just gave AMD a massive $615 price target based on today's AI event.
Right, which is a solid 24% upside.
Yeah. But the really deep researchers, like this analyst going by the name Serenity, across the Bitget and KuCoin platforms, they aren't fighting over a 24% gain on a mega cap.
No, they're looking for the structural bedrock. Serenity actually draws a very compelling historical parallel to a company called Lumentum, trading under the ticker LEE.
Oh, right. Tell us about Lumentum.
So a few years ago, Lumentum provided critical optical modules just as a previous, smaller networking upgrade cycle began. Over a 2-year period, as the market realized Lumentum was an unavoidable bottleneck for the hardware, their market cap skyrocketed from $3 billion to $75 billion.
Wow. I mean, going from $3 billion to $75 billion is the kind of multiplier you only capture if you understand the physics of the bottleneck before Wall Street does.
Precisely. Serenity's argument is that Sivers is sitting at the exact starting line of an even larger growth path, driven by this transition to co-packaged optics.
And those catalysts we mentioned, the undeniable financial events that will force the market to wake up, they are rapidly approaching.
Oh, yeah.
Because Sivers isn't just relying on these long-term founder partnerships to slowly gain traction. I was looking at their corporate calendar, and the immediate term is completely stacked.
It is. First, they have their Q2 interim earnings report coming up on August 6th, which will provide concrete financial data.
Right.
But the massive one is their planned dual listing on the NASDAQ.
A NASDAQ dual listing completely changes the physics of the stock itself.
Oh, completely.
Moving from an over-the-counter or foreign exchange to the primary U.S. market is a massive re-rating catalyst. It instantly opens the stock up to institutional buyers, mutual funds, and just mainstream retail investors who literally couldn't trade it before due to broker restrictions.
And the smart money is already front-running that listing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Tema's LASZ ETF, which specifically focuses on photonics and optical technologies, just added Sivers to their holdings.
Oh, wow. That is pure institutional validation.
Yes. Furthermore, the open market filings show that both the CEO of Sivers and multiple board members have been aggressively buying up shares with their own money.
Well, when insiders are buying their own stock during a 20% drawdown, it is a classic indicator of extreme confidence in the underlying pipeline.
Absolutely. They understand the structural transition happening inside the data centers, regardless of what the day-to-day sentiment of the stock chart looks like.
So what does this all mean? We have covered massive ground today. We started in San Francisco, looking at AMD's 256 GPU megapod and the physical reality that trying to push modern AI through traditional copper is like driving bullet trains through a swamp.
Which led us to the solution, right? Co-packaged optics. We explored how the OCI MSA Consortium, Global Foundries, and Ayar Labs are replacing electricity with light.
Using those microring resonators to achieve 8 terabit per second transfer speeds with 0 FEC latency.
Exactly. And finally, by following the OSINT sleuths down the supply chain, mapping slide deck visuals to diode patents, we found Sivers Semiconductors,
the neutral Swedish supplier, manufacturing the microscopic lasers that make this entire architectural shift possible.
It just proves that the most important technological shifts are rarely the most visible ones. The true value is hidden layers deep in the physical supply chain.
Which brings us to a final thought for you to chew on today. We talk constantly about the moats of tech giants, right? OpenAI's software algorithms, Meta's social graph, Nvidia's CAD architecture.
Right.
But as AI models themselves become increasingly open source and commoditized, software might not be the ultimate moat at all.
That's a great point.
If every company on Earth eventually has access to the exact same AI logic, the winner isn't the smartest software. The winner is simply whoever can process that logic the fastest without melting their servers.
Which all comes down to light.
Exactly. The ultimate trillion-dollar moat for the next decade of technology might just be whoever controls the microscopic beams of light shooting between the chips. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. Keep looking past the main stage, and we'll see you next time.